Welcome back. This is the last stretch of our conversation. This morning it is the Morning Review. My name is Jeff Mota in studio. Have Anthony Rebo with me, Gloria Orwoba and Joel Muita. We're looking at the big issues of the day, the overlap with what you're seeing between security and seeming political activity. Heated discussion. I had to take a break to let them sip on their water and cool down. Anthony, I'll come to you because even from where it stands, you can hear clearly they still don't feel that their role as umpire, that is the civil servants, is that clear-cut. There's a lot of dabbling in politics and your duties as a civil servant.
Before you get there, there's something I wanted to correct that Gloria mentioned. We need. She mentioned about the key Kondere issue. Mm-hmm. When you look at that, when you're given intelligence of a security lapse or security challenge in a political rally, and you do not take it seriously, there are consequences to it. And it is important for us to appreciate that as leaders, we need to respect the intelligence given to us. It is clear, it was mentioned by the police spokesman, that the campaign team of the DP had been forewarned.
I'll stop you there because the day after that incident, we did have one of their campaign members there, Tony Kibagendi, and they said the head of security never got any report or anything from the police.
You see, he can say that just so that they can propel their agenda and the thinking to the Kenyan. Highly unlikely, because the security team had nothing to, if they had said it, and they came out very clear. So, and that's what I'm saying. It's unfortunate that we are politicizing everything, including security, and many people are getting affected out of it. Mm-hmm. Now, going back to civil servants and politics, we also need to appreciate that the civil servants are also Kenyans. Much as they might not actively go into politics, we know what has been happening. And the person that they're talking about more is Matiang'i. And our good friend from IBC has said very clearly that the law allows the CS to do politics. So you cannot come here now and tell us that that cannot happen. And again, why is it that when the government is doing something, the side of government is doing, because already we know the opposition now, whenever they are trying to do something positive, they are being criticized. Yet, when we have the same people in UDA, let me now use the word, we know what has happened. We know we have even people who've been convicted. We know we have people who have serious issues with Chapter 6 on issues corruption. Why haven't they left office? Why must you tell the other person to leave office and stop politics if you know you've been also convicted of serious crimes against citizens and you're still doing politics? So let us not, let us balance these things. If you know and you are trying to speak on how we need to have integrity in our politics, and you've been questioned of the same on your side, then tell those people to step aside. Let you not have people supporting you who have been questioned for serious crimes against Kenyans, that is corruption and all that. Tell them not to support you if you're serious in the fight against unlawlessness.
Okay, I want us to switch gears temporarily and move forward to November the 30th. Seems like it's going to be an interesting date right there. First of all, we did know that we'd have the ruling party's National Delegates Convention. They said a lot would happen there in terms of revamping the party and rebranding it. But also, now we get the date also to be when the president will give his State of the Nation address. Joel, let me come to you on this because from what we've heard and intimations as far as what will happen in this particular National Delegates Convention at Jubilee, there might be some sort of de-whipping. We've heard talk of some of the members being kicked out, those who are perceived to be rebel MPs. How does the party leader, who's also the president, go from that, and probably one of those on the chopping block being his deputy president, and then come out of that and address the State of the Nation? How do you think that will play out on November the 30th?
I think, Jeff, the party politics in Kenya has been kind of party after party, to mean that our parties have not been very strong enough to hold and ensure that there is that continuity and integrity within the party, even to attract the young people to be part and parcel of these particular political parties. Just before I go to that particular answer, I would like to say that in the recent statistics which were removed by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, that we see the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties has a total number of 17 million members in different political parties, but only 4.5 of those are young people. And this is a reason even for us to worry, because in 4.5, and yet in the voter register we have more than 10 million young people registered as voters, and young people cannot associate themselves with different political parties, then we are seeing this is a situation which is not very good. And a situation that we are seeing in the Jubilee Party, and what our parents are portraying in terms of chasing each other, in terms of throwing words at each other and saying that in this particular national delegate conference, a lot of things that are going to happen. I think for me it is something that is uncalled for, and something that really needs to change for us to have a very progressive future. And there is no unity of purpose, and that is why our parties, from the history, we can see the way Ford happened. Now it had to split from Ford to Ford Kenya. You come to the history of NARC, had to split from NARC to NARC Kenya. You come to ODM, it had to split from ODM to ODM Kenya, and then ODM Kenya manipulates to Wiper. So these are not the things that we really need to hear, and we need here to embrace as young people. But we need to ensure that even if the Jubilee Party is going to host the National Delegate Conference, they need to stick on issues that can bring young people together, that things that can bring all Kenyans together for the progressive nature of this Republic of Kenya, so that we can attract as many people as possible and ensure that there is a progressive nature of our political parties in this Republic of Kenya.
Okay. Gloria, when you talk about the State of the Nation address, we expect the President to give a report on how progress in terms of enhancing national values has been in that particular period of time, and as well as fulfilling international obligations. There's been a lot on his plate right now, and all eyes, of course, will be on what happens in his ruling party before he addresses the nation. What's your take on that? Because clearly it seems like it might be a frosty meeting. Some people even saying probably the deputy party leader might not even attend the NDC.
Those are just rumors. Before that, I was going to pose a question. Since we are saying that it's okay for cabinet secretaries to be in politics actively and even participate in rallies, how would you feel going into 2022, where you have a cabinet secretary who's in charge of all security apparatus, in charge of all security systems, actually being part of the election management of this country, when he has come out and publicly declared that they have to ensure that Raila gets in? For sure, that is not going to be a free and fair election, for sure. Those are some of the reasons why Mwongozo sort of guides us, because it gets murky. At the end of the day, you still are the cabinet secretary in charge of security. During elections, you know what normally happens. We have seen how in the past the police have been used to actually influence elections to a certain place. So as a cabinet secretary who's in charge of this kind of dockets, I don't think that we'll be sitting here saying 2022 will be a free and fair election when you have already declared that you're going to ensure that Raila gets in. Now, to your question on the
State of the Nation address.
The State of the Nation address, I don't expect much, actually. I don't expect much. There's a lot of hype about the NDP. There's a lot of hype about who's going to come, who's not going to come. You can be sure that the deputy party leader is going to somehow
You think he will attend?
Involved. He will be involved.
Okay. Do you think he will attend?
I have not seen his calendar.
Okay.
But
no,
when
your
I see
assumption,
it,
no, if you saw it, you'd know.
But when I see it, I'll let you know. But
Okay.
for sure, he will be involved.
Okay.
So, and I don't think there's much to... Jubilee is dead. There's nothing going on there. Even if they call a press conference now, literally we can sit on this table, all of the people will be in the press conference. It's dead. There's nothing there, so let's not try and revive something by hyping people about an upcoming meeting that really could be like a cup of coffee of friends who are sitting together. In terms of the State of the Nation address, I think I'm really curious to see, particularly because we have had the international community coming in to whip us and tell us that there are some things that we are not doing right in a very diplomatic way, including the US. we've seen that they are coming out to speak that as much as we are pushing for security to be, and you know, all these other, let's say, policing systems, they're still saying that we have a constitution, there are some human rights that still need to be, you know, looked upon. We know about missing persons, you know, some who have actually been declared dead, while us, we still know they are missing. So there's a lot of expectation and accountability from the international community, because also this is a country that in the past, let's say, up to 6-8 years, has been led by a president who also ignores court orders. So I would like to see how he is going to address that, because we have so many court orders, Jeff, out there that have been ignored by the president. And we're not even just talking about the smaller ones, like the compensation orders from the NYS guy called Baraza, or which has taken 6 years. We're talking about Miguna Miguna, a Kenyan citizen who's still out there, who apparently the narrative has changed, that he was kicked out because of terrorist activity, then it was an issue of national security, and then it was that he was Canadian. And there are court orders out there stating very clearly that, first of all, he should have been given travel documents, his passports and everything that was shredded, and he should have been allowed back into the country. He's still out there. We have court orders out there with the 41 judges, you know, still ignored. We have court orders out there, including the reinstatement of, what was that guy, the Air Force commander, still ignored 6 years later. So when he's coming to address us on how the wins, you know, when our president is coming to tell us about the wins, if he is a responsible leader, I would like him to also speak about ignoring court orders, because that is actually a matter that the international community is also wondering, are we lawless? Is this a lawless country where court orders are spinned out and nothing happens?
Rebo, because what she says does have some weight. He speaks about national values, also supposed to address how we'll fulfill the international obligations. Of course, there's that Somali maritime dispute issue. We decided we don't recognize the ICJ after the ruling. I don't know whether he speaks to that. But also there's a Miguna issue that's pretty fresh in our memory this week, and of course, right even as the Secretary of State of the US was coming in, another red alert issued to Miguna in Germany. How does he address what seems to be like impunity with how they deal with such laws?
Now, I want to comment on what Gloria has said in terms of responsible, if he's a responsible reader.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's a responsible reader, and that is why we have, and he swore to protect this constitution.
Is he?
Yes, that I can say. Mm-hmm. Because you see, when you talk of court orders, there are those that he said not to have followed. Mm-hmm. And I always like referring to one that is very, talks weight. Mm. When you look at the parliament, we know that he was advised he can dissolve it. Mm-hmm. They are still earning, and they are still making laws. People like Gloria cannot even question that. But when you talk of...
No, that's an advisory from the...
It was advisory. He would have...
We're talking about court orders.
No. It's still an advisory from...
We need an order.
So now, when you talk also of court orders, there are those orders that definitely also, from where he sits, he's also advised. Because I don't think he just comes from nowhere and decides today I'm not going to follow. There are those that he looks at and sees that they are of national importance, security importance, and all that. And seeing that, then definitely, him taking that position, he knows why he does that. I'm not holding brief for him. But
isn't that a dangerous precedent? Because there's a way that can be addressed legally.
Also, do you want to tell me that all those court orders are so right?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
No, listen.
We can't debate on whether they're right or wrong,
that's
but
what I'm...
they are there.
They are there.
The issue is that a court order is...
We also have...
If you decide when you'll follow a court order or not, it's not an order anymore.
No,
exactly.
Wait, can I tell you?
Talk about KMC handover. That was a direct court order. KMC handover was declared unconstitutional, but we still handed it over.
I'm talking.
Okay, Rebo.
It's my time.
It's
my time.
Okay.
Listen, we know there are those orders that have been given. We know there are those orders that have been... the AG has appealed. When you talk of things like even KMC, already now, yesterday I saw from the news that actually Kenya is now going to export meat to Egypt. It is making profits. You know that. Mm-hmm. You talked of even people saying that they have been kicked out of office and they were not working. Yeah? And when they are out, like NMS, we are seeing what is happening in Nairobi. So if he sought to ensure that Kenyans get the right the right kind of leadership and all that, and we are safe, then let it be. But we cannot all, and you know he has his advisors from the AG going all the way. I want to imagine that those people advise him the right way. So we should not only cherry pick and say because this is not following, because I've also asked.
All court orders
No.
Gloria, some order.
No. Listen, we have also heard, and we have also seen people in another political side who are criminals, and they are allowed to go and speak in front of people. So what are you telling me? So that now that the president is there, everything that he does, you hammer him. You even say that international, when you talk of international outlook there, we know who violates human rights. It's not the Kenyan. So we know. So does it mean that whatever the US or the UK do, we have to follow? And that is why we are an independent country. The president, we have given him the mandate to ensure that he leads us in the right way. So we do not have to follow all the advisories that we're being given, and we know again who, we know that they are violators, by the way. We don't need to mention them.
Okay, let me bring in Joel on this, because Joel, as Anthony says, that some of the reason why probably these court orders haven't been heeded is because of the public good, the greater good, and that's the president. That's what informs the president's decisions on those. But also, it does create a dangerous precedent, because if indeed you go with that argument and that's why he's doing it, probably the next president will not have that public good in his nature, but already has a precedent in ignoring court orders. How do you think this can be addressed? Because that's increasingly tainting the legacy of Uhuru Kenyatta with his approach and attitude towards the judiciary and court orders.
I think it is not a good precedence where a head of state or a civil servant disobey a court order. Court orders should be respected and should be adhered by all people in this republic, regardless of your position and where you come from. So I think as a good practice for all the Kenyans, and we've seen yesterday DCI Kinoti being summoned and being summoned because he actually disobeyed the court order and jailed for 4 months term in jail at Kamiti maximum prison. So people should know that even if we are doing all this, they have their consequences. You might not be caught now, but tomorrow you'll be caught. So it is a good thing that as a young people, as people in position in various sectors of this Republic of Kenya, are there to the rule of law and also the court orders, because when we don't do that, we are making this particular country go in a very wrong direction. So, Jeff, I would concur with my friend here, Gloria, that people should adhere and respect the court orders given irrespective of their position and the circumstances which are ongoing. Thank you.
Okay, we have around 7 minutes before we bring this to a close, and you've actually taken me to where I wanted to go to next, because the latest in terms of pronouncements from the courts was that to do with DCI boss George Kinoti was supposed to present himself to Kamiti prison due to lack of following a court order in 2017 to return firearms belonging to Jimmy Wanjigi. It's not lost on us, because even as that particular pronouncement was being made, DCI boss was actually outside Kamiti having a press conference on the terror suspects, terror convicts who had been captured on that. Pretty ironic, you see. But some people asked, even as the judge gave this particular verdict, did he think it was feasible? Did he think it was practical? Who arrests the DCI boss and brings him in?
Of course it's practical and it's feasible. The problem is Kinoti has been mentored by his president, you know? That's what mentorship, that's what happens. When you have a leader who's actually saying that I don't care about your court orders, hata mkitoa order inakaaje, sisi we are going to ignore. They've ignored so many court orders. There was a media blackout during the president swearing in. There was a court order that the media houses be put back on. It was ignored. We had like a court, there's an appointment of 41 judges. KMC handover was declared unconstitutional, and the president went ahead and did it. NMS was declared illegal. The president is still lauding NMS for the work. So, you know, when someone says, oh, but we've seen it putting profit. So, Rebo, you have a matatu. Then I come, I steal your matatu because I've seen, hata ufanyi hiyo biashara vizuri.
That
then
is
when
different.
it's the same thing.
No.
Then when I steal that matatu, then me now I come, I post profits. Then I tell people, guys, I look at the profits I'm doing. Does that make it right? Doesn't make it right. You know, you still remain a thief, you know. So that's what we are saying. A court order is a court order. And nobody is above the law. Nobody. Not the president, not Matiang'i, not Kinoti. And you know, it's becoming a little bit frustrating, too frustrating actually, if we are supposed to be guided by the Constitution. And we are supposed, yani unasema ukifikiwa mwisho, you go to court. The courts are supposed to now keep us in check. Keep the executive in check. Keep the legislature. You know, they are like the prefects of our society. And we have a leader who's saying, I don't respect the courts. I'm not going to listen to the courts. Of course, Kinoti was outside giving a press conference when the judge said this guy should be arrested. But, I mean, when you think about it, who's going to dare? You see, that's the culture that we've inculcated in our civil service, in our state agencies, in our leadership, that at the end of the day, wewe as long as wewe ni msewa nani, you know, so it doesn't matter, utashikwa, tutapigiwa simu and things like that. And it's impunity, and that's what we are trying to get away from, because as you said, if next year, my party leader, William Ruto, when next year my party leader, William Ruto, becomes the president of the Republic of Kenya, and a court order is put out of a certain nature, and he decides to think the same way and say, hii mimi naona sioni kama nitafanya, you know, people are going to be out in arms and saying, no, we have to blah, blah, blah. So we cannot, actually, I am looking forward to the day, hopefully soon, today is Friday, that Kinoti will actually be arrested, because we need one example so that people can actually remember when you have a court order, when you go through the process, the legal processes, when you're a law-abiding citizen and you follow the process. And you know, Jeff, this is why people sometimes, they're saying, ukikosewa, unaenda kotini kufanya nini? Why should I go to court? Because if I go to court, you know, allegedly maybe someone will pay a judge, or huyo hata ni rafiki ya nani, so then they decide to square it out in the streets. You know, so suddenly someone is just driving there on Wayaki where he has been shot dead, you know. On the matter of Jimmy Wanjigi and the firearms, I wanted to say this. One, he still has licenses for those firearms. So if he still has licenses for those firearms, why again is an institution refusing to give him back his firearms? We saw the manner with which they broke into his house. It's the same exact, it's like you're watching a repeat of Miguna Miguna. Someone, a terrorist, breaks into your house, because that's what a terrorist does. For political interest, uses violence. Breaks into your house, decides to do whatever they want to do, takes your property, goes with them. Years later, Jimmy has followed the processes that are required, going to court. Now the court has said, arudishiwe, vitu zake na huyu Kinoti, ashikwe. So if we sit and we watch as Kenyans, and we are literally waiting to see, and by the way, I want to send a message to our president, because he's my president also. People are watching, and things are not going the right way. And the precedent that you're setting as a president who's ignoring court orders is going to reach to a place where even Kenyans will start ignoring any sort of authority.
Rebo, is it too high an expectation for us to have news this morning that DCI boss has presented himself to committee to follow the court order? Is that something Kenyans should even try and imagine could happen?
No, that's not going to happen.
Does he appeal this, or does he ignore it? How do you think this plays?
I think it would be wise for him to appeal. But let's look at why the court orders came in. Gloria is talking with a lot of authority. I don't know whether she's holding brief for Wanjigi, because I don't know whether Wanjigi has, or those licenses had been revoked. Private firearm licenses are preserved of the police. And let us not also, you know, try and bite too hard what we can chew. Because let's appreciate that if the police themselves have withdrawn firearms from you, for what, and they have reasons, because they had given you for some reasons, and they have already withdrawn, I want to imagine that if they've gone through the process all the way to now the kind of pronouncements that are coming, I do not have information, but I would not want to imagine that this just happened. He must have been informed by a committee, because he never did it alone. I don't want to imagine that just one day Kinoti woke up and decided to withdraw those firearms. There must have been reasons, and those reasons have to be followed. So when we politicize everything, because this is about politics, that you find that now you now put Kinoti, yeah, with what he's doing at loggerheads with the system. So it's simple. If the firearms were withdrawn, I want to imagine the Firearm Licensing Bureau must have done what is deemed of them to do, and they withdrew them. If the courts again give an order, I think the best person to address the same is the Firearm Licensing Bureau, to know exactly why they were withdrawn. And I want to imagine security issues are at times left at that. You cannot bring them to the media and start saying, oh, this is what happened. Because what we are now reducing ourselves to is that every decision or pronouncements by the security organs has to come to the media for critiquing. Where we have now the experts of Gloria, myself here, some of us have security expertise, others are civilians, others are politicians. They might not understand the intricacies. So we have now brought everything, even the national security issues, to everyone for discussion. And that is a dangerous precedence that we are setting. So I would urge, when we are dealing with security issues, let us place them where they're supposed to. Let us not bring them to the media for everyone, to chip in.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to imagine they must have been well informed. And I will tell you, this is not going anywhere. You can imagine, also when you're giving such an order, you need to appreciate, is it going to bring conflict between the executive and the judiciary? Because we're supposed to execute the order. The police execute the order of the courts. So where are we bringing ourselves into?
Okay, and as to wrap up this particular segment at this point, there's some feedback in a message that we need to read before we cool down the studio from what has just happened. Let's have that up on screen, please. Good morning, I'm Benjamin Kimuli from Kitui. It's actually wrong for cabinet secretaries to engage in politics. They should be non-partisan, otherwise they will lead this great nation to chaos. What happened in Kondele was so unfortunate, and anybody who could have been involved should be very ashamed. That's from that particular Benjamin Kimuli of Kitui. Another message here, this court order debate is overrated. Orders cannot supersede security concerns or the greater good. Judges also can make ridiculous decisions that the head of state will ignore. We know our courts are corrupt, judges and magistrates are compromised, and lawyers have been bought. Too much learning is dangerous at times. Okay, on that learning note, we're going to draw the curtains on this particular conversation this morning. Anthony Rebo, asante sana for your time on the show. Thank you so much. Gloria Roroba, many thanks for being on the show. Joel Mita, welcome back to the show. Asante sana. They'll be having a cup of coffee as they discuss these issues offline. We'll take a short break on the back onto the side. It's a Hangout Friday. As always, we have a DJ in the house. We jump into the kitchen as well. A celebrity to roast in studio. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.